All right, I'm gonna pop in with the video, and I think this particular video that I'm gonna land today, it might be something of providence, or like something of a calling, where I think that if I can enunciate what was on my mind this morning, it would amount to the real value that I may have achieved, that may be achievable at this iteration, for what I'm doing with what the channel has been. Sometimes when things happen in life, um things are things kind of take form, uh with around, through, within, and back without us. And so, in the greatest sense, when the greatest things really are beyond us, and that doesn't mean it's easy, but it's beyond us. I think one of the strongest skill sets you may appreciate or encounter would be that of a surfer. I used to like enjoy a lot of magazines, like back in when I was a young man. I had a obscure job as a clerk and a pharmacist, but my taste and my interests weren't obscure, because I was a little unassuming, kindly, almost near about a pushover of a clerk. I hadn't always been like that in life. I had been more. I had a little bit more grit. I wasn't the toughest of people, but I had some a little bit of natural. The people that my father come from, they can be a little bit they can be a little bit stout. They're not the stoutest in that area. That's actually a good analogy for a little bit of my personality. Where my father comes from, you have very awesome, formidable heritages there. One would be like the Khoisan, who are also called the Kung people. They're known to be the oldest remaining intact line of heritage of a human being that's known upon the earth, is, I believe, the Kung people, similar to like the click sound, the Khoisan in Africa. I'm not going to attempt to enunciate a click word. My father can. They're actually throughout the entire continent of Africa, but they're also in the region of South Africa and near about where my father comes from, Namibia, and they're actually a little bit lighter of complexion before colonialism. Actually, your diversity of a lot of the genotypes, your phenotype, according to King Noble, your phenotype is the outward expression of your genetic heritage, and your personal heritage in existence is your phenotype. But then your genotype is the actual the fundamental inheritance in you, that both the latent and the expressed. So the phenotype would be like your expressed. The genotype is your expressed and your latent, or maybe you could say, I don't know which you would appreciate as stronger. And I'm a little bit I'm speaking superficially and actually almost as a layman, but that's not a layman concept. You'd have to have a little bit of background around scholarship, and or biology, which means bio means life, ology means the study. Kinesiology is like the movement of the muscles and the ligaments, the actual mechanics of the body. Physiology is, I think that would be a little bit kinesiology, and the different activities of the body, like the electrochemical, the endocrine, that means like the hormones, the nervous, the cardio, all the actual motion, both static and kinetic. Static means still, kinetic means motion, of the body would be physiology. And then anatomy is the components themselves. Kinesiology would be like the moving components of the body, but then anatomy would be like the static components. That means like stationary. But so I'd come across the difference between phenotype and genotype, that I'm just referencing a little bit loosely with that. I'm not speaking authoritative, just as far as rough information that you could look further into if you were interested. But within Africa, you have people with blue eyes. Another example, what I'm reaching for, is like the Aboriginal people of Australia. That you have people of pigmentation on all the continents historically. Prior to it can be, you can reason that there's evidence that there have been human beings on the earth, including Europe. There have been people of pigmentation, such as the Aboriginal people of Australia, and also people like in southern India, that sometimes have a darker, a richer complexion than like my father, who my father's near about fully blooded African. He does have a little bit small amount of European ancestry, which is he had a historical significant person in his family was of European descent that I might talk about one time, named James Todd, who was he was like a rugged wilderness person that had like a company of a ranch, and he was influential, and he had a African wife, and he endeared himself to the African people, but he was actually mutinied. It's kind of interesting, that family member of mine who's related to my dad somewhat randomly, nothing's random on that order, but somewhat significantly different but my dad is more so of African complexion, and you couldn't distinguish that he had any European ancestry if you looked at him. However, there's people of all the different the diaspora with that same rich pigmentation, and it would just speak to a difference in the history is what we're presented. How did people get to Australia in the first place, as Australia is remote like that? But I actually have an order coming in, so I'm gonna finish this video, and then I'm gonna. But I think I had some significant valuable insight to offer, off the strength and the spirit of reciprocity toward the value of networking, of ideas, and in contacts and whatnot. That's where I'm coming from with my angle on this channel.